Welcome to the Unlock 360 podcast, where education leaders share how they're turning vision into action, one system, one school, and one student at a time, because strong systems give every learner a better shot at success. Joining us today, we have Superintendent Dr. Brett Geithman. Welcome, Brett.
Thanks for having me today.
It's great to have you on our show. Looking forward to diving into some of these fantastic things you have going on in your district. Let's jump right in with how you're really leading the work of AI integration in K-12 education.
Yeah, great question. So AI is here, right? And I think that one of the things that we're really fortunate here in Marin County is we're really at the epicenter of technology. So, being right next to San Francisco, a number of our families and community members are working directly with either OpenAI, Google, and other tech innovative companies. So we're really lucky to have that. But if I take that step back, one of the things that we did here in Larkspur-Corte Madera School District is we created a vision, and we call it Vision 2036. And the idea was we worked with a design thinking group out of San Francisco called Prospect Studios. The idea was if you look 12 years, you actually get, because we started this in 2024, if you look 12 years out, you're actually more likely to dream bigger and have more inspirational, aspirational types of goals rather than looking only 3 to 5 years. So one component of that is really looking at future-focused facilities and overall technology integration. And so what we've done here in LCM is we've had a series of partners that we've worked with. One of them is Henry Jin. He's a Harvard and Berkeley grad. He has an AI startup in San Francisco, and he's come directly and trained not only our leadership team, but also our staff members. When we wanted to approach AI, we wanted to do it in a very thoughtful way. So one aspect of that was using an expert like Henry to come in and really showing us the do's and don'ts, explaining what AI is, explaining what how do you know your data is private and protected versus those, open versus closed. But ultimately, when we gave this little taste of AI to our staff, we just wanted to see if anybody was curious about digging in more. And we had a group of 19 people form an AI inquiry group last year. And so what was really neat about it is it actually represented all different job classifications in the district, from teachers to paraprofessionals to business services to office managers. So it was really a neat group. And what we did was we used two main tools. One was Hanover Research's Hanover Research has designed an AI evaluation tool. And so this is looking at things like data privacy, student use, adult use case in general. And then we also use, there's a market map for different AI use cases for education. So with our committee, what we did was we identified, because we had teachers who were like special education teachers to office managers to administrators to a typical classroom teacher, second grade teacher. So each person has a little bit of a different use case. So what we did was we had the subgroups within the committee identify what is their use case that they're trying to use AI for. And then within that use case, they use the market map to explore a specific tool that is designed for their use case. They would come back and report back to us about how that went. And we had a cycle of this for, monthly meetings for the entire school year that ultimately now is leading into a much more, sophisticated plan and moving forward.
That's super interesting. Can you give us an example of a use case? Can you drill down a little bit on that for us?
Sure. So if we wanted to say, let's say a use case is data analysis. Okay. So let's say that there's a staff member, right? Teachers use data, special education team uses, administrators, right? So there's data analysis tools. So you look at that use case and then you look at the specific AI tools that are designed for data analyses. And there's a variety of them out there. So then now under that, you can filter it. It's all, if you Googled market map for AI by use case, they actually have it to where then you can filter down by use case to those tools, get a summary of those tools, and then identify which one you'd like to explore.
Got it. I'm also curious, you mentioned having this expert come in and help you all with the do's and don'ts. Can you give us a couple of examples of the don'ts?
Yes, the don'ts is obviously PII, right? Like you don't want any personal information. You don't want to put that out in open systems. So you have to be very ensure your data is secure. So I would say that is definitely a don't. I would also say like the check, like don't put something, let's say through AI, have AI like review a student paper and grade it without actually reviewing it yourself before giving it to that student, right? So like have that second layer, like, does this make sense? Does it align with my rubric? So like some of the do's would be, if you are using it for grading, one, use a closed system, make sure it's like FERPA and COPA compliant, but two, you have to train it. So like, what rubrics are you using? Can you grade a few papers and show it examples, right? And then afterwards, are you going to review the feedback to make sure that it really aligns with what your intentions and purpose were for that specific assignment? So I think like being able to walk through those different cases, I think was helpful for staff.
You know, you're reminding me of some challenges that some districts here in Texas are facing because the recent STAR testing system, which is like the CASP system there in California, they had AI grade the students' written responses, and many districts opted at a fee to send them back and have them hand scored by actual humans because they were agreeing with the scores that they were seeing, and several did end up with better results that way. And you know, it just makes me like think about your model of inquiry and having the committees, and like that could be a potentially an interesting case study to dig into, learn more about. But yeah, that's helpful.
No,
Thank you
thank
for.
you. It would, yeah, I mean, it was actually really great to have this, to get the feedback from different, job classifications throughout the district to see how they
Mhm.
were interacting with these tools. What it ended up doing, if I could like fast forward to today, right? So that was like last year. What we did at the end of the school year was we created an AI handbook. And in that handbook, we have, there's a school, Milwaukee, school district. I think it's in the Midwest. They did a great job with AI tools. So we really looked at them as a leader in this. But what we ended up doing was creating, what are the staff expectations with AI and guidelines, I should say, staff guidelines for AI, student guidelines for AI, make it really explicit. We identified one common tool that we're going to explore for this full school year. A lot of it was due to FERPA, COPA compliant, and Google Classroom integration or Google Suite integration. And then third, we have identified 4 AI leads throughout the district who are going to do a trainer of trainer model, and then push out basically these bite-sized professional developments for all of our staff members on AI, while also updating our technology scope and sequence. So like we have a tech scope and sequence that says like, these are the minimum tech, or these are like the expected tech skills that are taught in each grade level. So, like in third grade, X, Y, and Z is taught. So fourth grade teachers know when those kids rise up, those rising fourth graders, they already have these tech skills. So I'm going to build upon them. So we're going to layer in AI into like what our expectations are for those like baseline foundational AI skills at each grade level. And again, it probably won't start till later grades. Like I don't think we're going to have kindergartners using AI. But then the second thing is then also, how do we weave this into our digital citizenship curriculum? Like how do we make sure that we're covering AI in digital citizenship? And then third, taking a look at what is the balance of students in and tech tools in general. Like how much screen time, like regardless of whether, like, I know we have like the recommendations for at home, like American Pediatric Society Association has recommendations for like each age level, like how much screen time, but that's more of like recreational screen time. I'm not sure, like I haven't seen as much. And this is part of our study is like, we're going to really dig into like how much time should students be spending even on educational tools in front of a screen? Because a lot of curriculum, developers, they push through that digital space.
Mhm.
And so there's this heavy reliance on screens, and we really want to be able to like quantify what are those like, boundaries we should have on overall screen time for kids.
Be interesting to know what that should be for adults as well.
Right. Exactly. Right.
You mentioned something in the Vision 2036 about a portrait of an adult. Can you tell us more
Yeah.
about that?
Absolutely. So the center of our vision is our graduate portrait, which are the knowledge, skills, and dispositions that we want our graduates to have when they leave because we're a K through 8 district, when they go to high school and beyond. So then the adult portrait is if we want certain things to be true for our students, then what things need to be true for the adults that work with students? So what knowledge, skills, and dispositions do adults need to possess to then actualize what that graduate portrait is? And so I think that's really helpful to think about. A lot of times, I think as districts, we focus on what is that graduate profile, but it really takes the adults in the system to shape what the outcomes are for students.
Precisely. Precisely. And I think that's really powerful. And you're right. Many districts have tried to capture, what a portrait of a graduate is for their school district, for their community. But not so many have really said, okay, then what does that mean that we have to do? And we have to, yeah, that's powerful. Was that part of what led to the emphasis on AI integration?
I think what it did is it definitely was a starting point for it. So while we were creating our 2036 vision, we were doing our AI exploration. But in terms of our next steps, by having this inquiry group and having, our scope and sequence identified and remapping our digital citizenship and being more explicit and intentional about what does AI look like for students and staff as we move forward, that all grew out of the vision. So what we did was our vision is 2036, but a vision is like, if you look at our documents online, like on our website, I mean, they're amazing. Like they're very well designed, like beautiful. They all have icons associated with them, these great pictures, descriptions from this whole process. But a vision only works if you have a plan that goes along with it.
Right.
So after our vision was approved in December of 2024, we immediately formed a strategic planning committee and we planned out the next 5 years. And so the AI work is embedded into our strategic plan for 2025 through 2030.
Okay. All right. And then tell us about how are you all going about taking even that plan, the strategic plan, to a shorter term timeline for implementation, execution, revision.
Mhm.
Uh, how are you systematizing that from the boardroom to the student desk?
Yeah, great question. So we talked about the graduate portrait. We talked about the adult portrait. Now, the third portrait is a system portrait. So,
Okay.
in order to make these things happen, what are the things that might need to change in order to support the adults to then create those student outcomes that we're hoping for? So, the way that our strategic plan works is we've taken each element, that there's 6 elements of our system portrait, and identified what are the levers for change in each one of those elements. We've also identified the reporting metrics that we're going to have 2 to 3 times per year. So we've published all of this. So we're very, open about it of like, here's what we're going for in this 5-year process. But each year you're going to get an update, 2 to 3 times. And now here are specific actions that are aligned with these particular plans. So when I talk about the AI committee, I always loop in the strategic plan and the vision. When I talk about the work that we're doing with equity, I always loop in our vision and strategic plan. So it's always referring back to it of like, how does this fit within these different action steps that we're taking as a district?
That's important as a leader. Uh, do you think that your teachers are there? Are they in a space where they could articulate the alignment and the purpose of specific actions in the classroom to the strategic plan or to the vision?
So this is year one of the vision and the strategic plan. So we had literally the designs that you'd see on our website. We just got them up over the summer. So part of our first year, one of our goals is socialization. And so it speaks exactly to what you're asking right now is like, how do we make this a part of our everyday functioning as a school district where teachers are well versed, students understand, parents understand, broader community understands this vision. And so we are in process of that. Now, all of our teachers were involved in the creation of the vision. So we used a design thinking process, I think I mentioned, through Prospect Studios, where we had over 1,200 inputs for our V1, 2, and 3 of the different elements that would be a part of this vision. And our teachers were key players in that. So we had teachers, we had students, we had former students, parents, former parents, business leaders, community members, all involved in this process.
I think I read that you had over 1,200 stakeholders involved.
We did. So we had over 1,200 inputs. And so it was really, and this was a major campaign, our goal, right? I look at what is the purpose of a school district, right? A school district, I think one is to provide access to all members of a community, right? To elevate overall society. But then, another part of it is it should be representative of the community values. So like we have, we're fortunate to be a community funded district. I won't get into California school funding, but what we wanted to do is really ensure that our schools, which serve as the hub of our community, are reflective of the goals and aspirations that we have for the children that we serve. And so it was a very active campaign. So a lot of targeted outreach to ensure that we had that community support. So yeah, we had, again, great support. The student support was honestly one of my favorite pieces of it, being able to go to graduates and talk to them about their experience and, what future graduates would need to be successful beyond LCM schools.
That would be really rewarding. That would just be fun. What led to this? What caused you to see the need for this long-term vision and this strategic plan to execute?
I think so. This is my 9th year here as superintendent in Larkspur-Corte Madera Schools. And obviously part of my superintendency was through the pandemic. And pre-pandemic, we had our strategic priorities, which was another community engagement process that the school district went through. And we identified what those top 6 strategic priorities were. And they did test well within our community when we would ask from time to time, do these still resonate with you? Are these still the direction you want for our school district to go in? So I think coming out of the pandemic and seeing, just how the landscape of education, as it always does, continually changes, it really felt like the right opportunity to go back out to our stakeholder groups and talk to them about, how can we take these ideas of strategic priorities or take these ideas of aspirations for students and, for lack of better words, just amplify it, put it on steroids, take it to that next level. And I think this portrait model really does that and provides that clear direction. So it's kind of the what's next for Larkspur-Corte Madera Schools. And I felt like the timing was right on for that.
And did you feel, it sounds like you did, but just, did you feel like your community and your staff and your students, they were feeling that need as well?
I'm not sure about, to a degree. I think part of a job as a school leader is to also forecast. And so I think that, one of the great things about education is it's always evolving. It's always changing. And so as a leader, one of the things I prefer not to be, which we have to in some circumstances, be reactionary, but I like to be proactive. And so does our greater leadership team and our board of trustees. And so here's something where, yes, we've had these strategic priorities. Yes, I'm seeing some models that are a little bit more advanced, or frameworks that are more advanced, to really drill down into what are those aspirations for our students and beyond. And while people weren't like asking for it, so to say, it was more of a way for us to um, be that proactive force to really, basically gather the energy that we have in our community and turn it into something that's really exciting.
Very exciting. Yes, I'm actually hoping that we can connect again in the future. So, I'd love to learn how it's unfolding and how it's really having, an impact in the classroom since we're just getting
Absolutely.
started. Yeah. Um, so maybe let's shift gears a bit. I'm also wanting to inquire about your successes and challenges when it comes to equity and inclusion. That's, you know, districts everywhere are having to really say, how are we making sure that we're being giving kids equitable opportunities, and experiences, and how are we ensuring that we're really including all of the various kiddos that come to our campuses. So let's talk about that a little bit. Love to hear how you're going about that and maybe some of the challenges that you've experienced.
That sounds good. Yeah. So one of equity is our number one goal. So if you took a look at LCMSD's local control and accountability plan, equity is number one. Our goal is to narrow the equity gaps, not only in terms of academic achievement, but in overall wellness, belonging type of spaces too. And so, one of the things that is challenging is because Marin County as a whole, if you look at our demographics, we have a smaller number of English learners in comparison, let's say, to the California average, right? And so when we take a look at some of our student groups, let's say like English learners, one of the things that's been a challenge for us is that the equity gaps there, specifically when it comes to achievement, can be persistent.
Mhm.
And we have a smaller sample size, so they skew quickly. So earlier this morning, we were actually looking at EL data. And so looking at ways to do so tomorrow evening, we have a targeted outreach event with our English learner families where we have a lot of resources. We have a dedicated EL specialist who serves as that point of contact. We've hired on a community liaison, so they have a point person to really navigate not only LCM schools but the transition onto high school and beyond. And so we're taking some active steps towards that. I think another thing just to take a look at that is really important to us is we do an equity audit every year. We've been doing this for about 4 or 5 years, but we take a look not only, of course, academic achievement data, but we also look at every award that's given in our schools. And is it
Um,
representative of our student population? We take a look at our accelerated pathways. Who's in our accelerated pathways? What is their success in our accelerated pathways? We take a look at students with disability. Are we disproportionate or not? We take a look at overall participation in leadership. So our student council leads, what are they representative? So what's I'm really happy to report is that's turned into actionable data. So what we've noticed is earlier on, those accelerated points, let's say for mathematics, they were disproportionate. And so that made us take that step back of find out the why. Why is this
mhm.
disproportionate and how can we start to change? And now what we're seeing is the last 2 years, they've been proportionate for our accelerated pathways. And then I'm able to see the data in high school and beyond, and students are experiencing success there too. So it's uncovering it, but then also putting in specific plans for change. Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that because we can get so caught up in data as educators and forget to do something with it or about
Mhm.
it, acting on the data. That's important, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then you were curious about challenges as well, right?
Yes.
In terms of
Yes.
this space. Yeah. So we think about that overall culture of inclusion and just spaces of respect and safety, right? And so one of the challenges that we've had that I think some other school districts, I think, in my reading, a number of school districts have had as well. We've had some unfortunate incidents take place with students, right? And sometimes with adults in our community, but I'm going to zoom in really on the student component. A couple years ago, we had several anti-Semitic incidents happen on our middle school campus or with middle school students. Our feeder high school has also had some challenges as well along race and racially problematic statements and activities and things like that. And so it really takes us to say, like, okay, well, what can we do about this, right? Like, how can we build inclusive spaces for all kids and all families, and do as much as we can so that these types of events don't take place in the future. And so one of the things that came through as like a very evident through line with our LCMSD 2036 vision is that equity is at the forefront. Equity is at the forefront for our graduate portrait, our adult portrait, and our system portrait. And so that's that clear through line. When those specific events happened 2 years ago, what we did was we first met with a number of concerned parents. We called it a town hall, so to say, right? And really, and met with a key group of parents and all those that wanted to be involved. But what ultimately happened from that is we ended up creating several different mechanisms. And one of them is, we call it our We Are One series. So, and it's our K-8 series. And every month, the first Tuesday of every month, we teach a lesson district-wide. And it will have the same theme, but it's tailored to age appropriateness. So we, like our K2 grade level lessons look very different than our middle school lessons do. However, they touch upon the same theme and build on that year over year. And so, like one that I'm thinking about right now, one example of it is on symbols, right? How symbols, right, can promote things, but also can really disparage certain people or symbolize hate, right? And so, like, how do you, like, symbols are important. Symbols are a part of our daily world. And so the younger students are looking at symbols like signs and things that they see, but then our older students are taking a look at, like, what is the meaning of certain symbols like a swastika? Like, what does that mean? And these are things that have touched our community. So it's like, let's really dig into this and talk about this. Because one of our feelings is, yes, we know that our families are strong partners and we know that they do a lot of teaching at home. However, we have an expectation of what our inclusive schools look like. And therefore we have a responsibility, and it's a mandate to do this pre-teaching so that students are successful and safe in our schools. So we have that safety piece there, or those proactive lessons that we teach, the We Are One series. They're all grounded in the social justice standards, and our partner Critical Friends helps us with that. Families can review it. We have coffee chats and workshops in those areas as well. But then also what ends up happening is there are always going to be students are they're gonna experience things that are outside the lane, right? In terms of not meeting what those expectations are. So whenever we have any sort of problematic issue when it comes to a protected class, we actually have a response mechanism for that. So we have one in terms of teaching. So, and this is all grade level appropriate, as well as frequency of incidents with that specific child or group of children. So what is it that we're going to teach? What are the consequences associated with it? And then how are we going to repair? So, and it's all like very concrete and laid out. And again, there's flexibility in it depending on the situation. But it really provides a roadmap so that when you're in the situation that can be harmful, right? That did, create a lot of harm for a group or an individual student. How do you navigate that to respect and provide that opportunity for repair, but the opportunity for future learning so that that child doesn't engage in that behavior in the future?
Yeah, that's helpful. I think, yes, many districts are grappling with these challenges. I'm thinking of one that I worked with in the Sacramento area that had some pretty big challenges with Russian and Ukrainian students a couple of years ago, and trying to put systems in place so that you get ahead of some things that could be difficult for kids and families and the community, and how you respond and how we treat one another. Those are all really important parts of being human.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today that maybe we haven't touched on, but that you'd like to, shout out about your district and the work that you're doing?
Gosh, I mean, it really, Larkspur-Corte Madera really is just a phenomenal place, to learn, to live, to grow. We have amazing community partnerships. I think one of the things the meeting I came from earlier this morning, I get two different meetings in different lanes, but one of them was about the community support that we have for our district and how we partner with those community members. So we have a foundation, the Spark Foundation, that raises $1.5 million for our school district. We have our PTOs and PTAs. We have a parcel tax. We have a lot of opportunities to really, like, our whole community really rallies around our school district and provides these amazing programs for our kids. And so I just feel very fortunate to live here and have, my own children and all children in LCM get to go through these schools, because it's really an amazing experience.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's a really wonderful thing when your community rallies around your students and your district and gives you that support that you need to be successful. Thank you for sharing that. If someone wants to learn more about your district, where do they go?
They go to lcmschools.org.
Okay, and that's where we can find those exciting visuals and graphics that you have, but really about, impacting outcomes for kids, the vision for the future. And is that also where they can find out if you have any job opportunities or job openings?
They can, absolutely, yeah. So if they go under a human resources page, that's a great spot to look.
Okay, awesome. Brett, thank you so much for being on our show, Unlocking 360 Degrees of Leadership, Teaching, and Learning. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Unlock 360 podcast. Follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube, and visit leadteachlearn360.com to learn more about us, because every school deserves systems that work and leaders who can make them thrive.